Больше этого дерева нигде не растет у нас на земном шаре.
Nowhere else can these trees grow. Only here from Varvarovka you came through it. Till this place it's about 12 kilometers.
Поэтому нарушение экологического...
If this scrap of ancient forest is lost, the only living record of these birds will be through these golden teeth. Save the reserve and there'll be local jobs in the tourist industry forever. Like the dolphins, these once proud ships plied a trade of oceanographic research. No longer funded by the government, they now have to earn a living in more overloaded ways. Will the new oil boom bring hope for the dolphins and the researchers, or will it simply hasten them on the route to extinction? Lose either and the Black Sea is in even more peril, as are the lives of all who depend on it. The people of Yalta come to greet these touring Argonauts. Holy days, holidays. Yalta is a resort without equal. Many hotels and convalescent homes for the rich and the great. One of the tourist hotspots of the world. A place of rejuvenation for body and soul.
Remarkable castle, which belonged to the Governor-General of the Crimea in the first half of the 19th century. The master of the place was extremely rich. He possessed 80,000 serfs or peasant slaves. Slavery or serfdom was abolished in Russia in 1861. Practically the same year saw the abolition of slavery in the United States.
Many civilizations have passed this way, and many great events have unfolded here. Freshest in many memories is the Yalta Conference, when 3 elderly men met to unite the world in peace and sadly erected a curtain of iron.
This was the place where the meetings of the Allied powers took place. 8 sessions of the Yalta Conference. They say that this fireplace was heated for the first time for the participants of the conference since the Tsars had left the palace.
This is the garden where Winston Churchill, President Roosevelt and Joseph Stalin came and posed for that famous picture after the signing of all the agreements of the Yalta Conference, which brought to the end the Second World War, but some would say started the Third World War, the war on the environment. St. Augustine said that paradise is a place where trees are growing. And Yalta, despite its turbulent history, still has its trees and almost has that peace and tranquility. The cars have come, but it's still a health resort and a holiday resort which has hardly been touched by the 20th, let alone the 21st century. But those high-rise hooligans who've already destroyed so many of the resorts, the landscapes and the sustainable lifestyles around the Mediterranean are out there waiting in the wings. So what will tourism bring for Yalta? Could it be its saviour or could it lead to further destruction? Handled in the right way, the profit from this new venture could pave the way to a brighter future. Handled in the wrong way, it could lead to greater division between rich and poor.
There has been, in the last 2 or 3 years, a tremendous return to Black Sea beaches and Black Sea coast. And there again, the tourists find themselves frustrated because the infrastructure definitely is worn and run down. And the feeling is that they would now be in a situation to compare and by comparison be able to pay a little bit more for the services which they could afford in the Black Sea. And there is some evidence that some people are constructing new hotels. But we hope that this can be done in a more orderly and organized way so that they don't wreck the environment by building cheap construction everywhere, and that they invest in municipalities so that the local community also benefits with such things as technology for improving sewage treatment, for example. And they don't end up with running the whole tourist industry down, which occurs in so many countries in development, that you have a thriving tourist industry, but it's actually feeding off the local environment and it runs down market, and you end up with cheaper and cheaper package tours until the place is completely messed up.
This idea of welfare, or what some people have called a goodness function, is an area where physical science and religion can really come together.
I have an article which is available for you here, which explains in great detail why world trade, where the protection of the environment is impossible.
Man can't even be conceived without the animals, nor can the animals be conceived without man.
What the GATT agreements have done to us is create a world free trade zone. A world in which there are no longer any laws to protect society, to protect labor, or to protect the environment.
Nature is valuable, certainly, and we should do what we can to preserve nature, but so are people, and people's needs cannot be fully harmonized with the needs of nature. So we are faced with the business of weighing the needs of people against the needs of nature, and we cannot give up on that.
Many resources of the environment are scarce, but not information.
Religion and science both address the mystery and the wonder of the created world and all those within it.
The Black Sea and its drainage area can only be managed under specific conditions. And these conditions, the most important of these conditions, is the impact of our destructive economic activities in this area is limited and cannot just go on increasing indefinitely. And the limit is probably already being achieved, but that is for Lawrence, me, and others to decide.
Science is in fact exploring how the world works. Religion is trying to interpret the question, why are we here?
The present global economy, as it is managed by the World Trade Organization, is simply unacceptable, and we've got to say that. If we don't say that, we're wasting our time.
What people have to understand is that all of their opportunities, for example, their opportunities for their own development as a community, depend on improving their own environment and protecting it. And that message is gradually getting across. We don't expect anybody to take out a huge bank loan to protect the environment. But we expect them, when they're taking out a bank loan to develop their own economic activities, such as tourism, to include in that a component which will enable the environment to be protected, because it makes good business sense.
The port, the sea terminal, was constructed in 1967 as if in the shape of a ship, with a captain's bridge in the middle, you know, as if the ship is leaving the port. It was designed in such a way as to make the entrance to the sea.
In the last century, it was true to say that on every day in the year, 40% of the population of Odessa were rich tourists. No wonder it was right here that the unpaid crew of the battleship Potemkin sparked off the Russian Revolution. A revolution that was meant to heal the rift between rich and poor.
The three most powerful symbols in the Bible when we are thinking about the end, that's to say the purpose of God's creation, are the garden, the city, and the meal. The Bible is set symbolically in a garden at the beginning, the garden in which man is the steward, the one who has to care for it and not its master. And that means the whole of creation. The city for the Bible ultimately will be the city of God, a place whose beauty we can't begin to conceive and where all men and women will live in peace. And the meal, the banquet, is the great feast in the kingdom where there will be no false distinctions of any kind between male and female, black and white, rich and poor. And I think those three symbols of the garden, the city, and the meal give one all one needs in thinking about the care of this one earth that we have.
White acacia trees, the symbol of the city of Odessa, because these trees are the friends of the people here. They provide them with shade throughout the long hot summer and wonderful blossom early in the year, and they do it without using very much water. You see, the acacias have learnt water conservation a long time ago. And Odessa always has had problems with its water supply. Not enough? Why, even today, the water that comes out from the tap must be boiled for at least 15 minutes before it is safe to drink.
Places like Odessa, absolutely gorgeous places, but they're under enormous threat. Their sewage systems don't work. We need partnerships with local people. We need policies which require employment of local people. People here need jobs. Fundamentally, they need jobs if they're going to address the issues of the environment. Tourism employs 1 in 9 people in the world, and this has all the ingredients of wonderful tourism. There's 160 million people within short commuting distance, 1 day's commuting distance of it. It's got wonderful beaches, it's got beautiful seas, lovely landscapes, enormous history and really wonderful history. I'm sure it can be a generator of jobs which are non-destructive in the environment.
The conference crew of our battleship had nothing to grumble about except the workload. But the feeling of hopelessness grew as we heard more and more about the unpaid scientists, teachers and even doctors and nurses